האם זה באמת סגולה בדוקה? הסגולה ללמוד בזה?
Erev Tov and good evening, everyone. We are in the Zera Shimshon on Parsha Vayelech. We're doing Os Zion, section 7. The Zera Shimshon in this piece is going to talk about the Kabbalistic meaning of the Tikiyah shofar, of the blowing of the shofar. And he's going to start with one of the psukim, a pasuk from Tehillim that we actually recite before the blowing of the shofar. And there are a couple of things to point out before we start. One is he's going to do a very unusual thing in this piece, which is he's going to bring a pasuk. He'll start with a pasuk, as we'll see in a moment. And then he's going to discuss two other psukim and analyze those two psukim and compare and contrast those two psukim for most of the piece. And because of the discussion about the other two psukim, he will establish certain ideas and principles that then he'll be able to say at the very end, okay, now with those ideas that we use to understand the two other psukim, we can go back and understand the first pasuk. So it's almost as if he kind of almost ignores the first pasuk that he quotes and starts with and asks questions on, almost ignores it so he can discuss two other psukim. And but then does come back to the first pasuk in the end. So that's unusual and a kind of unique aspect of this piece. The other thing is, and I want to be very clear about this, is that the Zera Shimshon discusses certain Kabbalistic ideas here, and really they become the bulk. I mean, really the most important ideas that he develops are from the world of Kabbalah here and the Zohar. And I want to be absolutely clear that I have no knowledge of the Zohar or Kabbalah on any level, even the most rudimentary, basic level. However, I tried to find a piece in the Zera Shimshon that was on Parshas Vayelech that connected to Rosh Hashanah and certainly the Tikiyah shofar and blowing the shofar. You know, what's more appropriate for preparing for Rosh Hashanah and getting ready for Rosh Hashanah than that? So this piece meets that need. But I really, in terms of the Kabbalistic ideas, I'll be happy to hear input from others and maybe in the discussion at the end, but at least we'll be able to read and translate some of the ideas, but what they mean on a deeper level, what they mean in a Kabbalistic sense, I'm completely unable, unfortunately, to explain that. So with that having been said, first let me read the pasuk from Tehillim that he's going to start with. It should sound familiar. As I mentioned a moment ago, it's one of the psukim we recite before the Tikiyah shofar. So the pasuk in Tehillim says, this is Perek Pei Tes, pasuk, Pei Tes, pasuk Tes Zion. Ashrei ha'am yodei serua, fortunate or praiseworthy are the people who know the blowing of the shofar, the sound of the shofar. Hashem be'or panecha yehalechum. Hashem, in the light of your countenance, they go. That's the pasuk. And now let's get right into the Zera Shimshon. Pasuk. The pasuk in Tehillim says, Ashrei ha'am yodei serua. Fortunate are the people, or fortunate is the nation that knows the sound of the shofar. Kasha, this is difficult. Ma kesher yesh, what connection is there? L'sechilas hapasuk im sofo, to the beginning of the pasuk with the end of the pasuk. So the first question simply is, and we've seen this many times in the Zera Shimshon, where it's clear that he feels every pasuk should have a certain consistency, and whatever it talks about in the first half of the pasuk should be somehow connected to what's in the second half of the pasuk. Otherwise, there should be two separate psukim. And again, we've seen that many times. So here he asks that type of question again. Let's read the pasuk. Ashrei ha'am yodei seru, as we saw a moment ago. Fortunate are the people who know the blowing of the shofar. So the Zera Shimshon says that's the first half of the pasuk. And what's the connection to now the last half? Hashem be'or panecha yahalechun, Hashem, in the light of your face or your countenance, they go. The second half of the pasuk doesn't seem to have any connection to the blowing of the shofar. So what is the connection between the two halves of the pasuk? What do we have to carry us through from the first part of the pasuk to the second part of the pasuk? That's question one. V'lama dafka yehalechum, and why specifically does the pasuk, in this case the second part of the pasuk, talk about they go from the word holech, from the shorish holech, halach, hey lamed chaf. Mahalicha shayach kan, because what type of going is relevant here? Why does the pasuk choose to talk about going when there doesn't seem to be any relevance? It's not relevant to talk about going in this pasuk, which again starts with the idea of blowing the shofar. So you might rephrase the question to say, what does a pasuk starting with blowing the shofar and focusing on that have to do with going? Halicha, yahalech, when they go. That's question 2. V'lama dafka ba'or panecha. And why does this pasuk specifically talk about in the light of your face, in the light of Hashem's countenance? And what does that have to do with what the pasuk's trying to teach us? V'od, and another question, this is the 4th and final question, Mahu Yodeh. What did it mean in the beginning of the pasuk when it said Ashrei ha'am Yodeh trua? Fortunate or praiseworthy are the people who know the sound of the shofar. V'chi umos ha'olam einom yodim leharia. And is it true that the nations of the world do not know how to blow the shofar? So the Zera Shimshon is saying, what does the expression to know, that the Bnei Yisrael are fortunate and deserve praise because they know about the blowing of the shofar? All of the people in the world, all of the Ummos Olam also know what it means to blow a shofar, to blow a ram's horn. Now, it's true that in modern times, we might say very few people go around blowing an actual ram's horn, but it's certainly a part of history that everyone's aware of, that before musical instruments and horns were created, people would blow. That's how they would blow a trumpet. They would blow sounds through a ram's horn or the horn of another animal. And so that's a known fact in the whole world. What's special about the Jewish people that we know how to blow the shofar? Everyone, so to speak, at least at one time in history, knew how to blow a shofar and understands what that means. So those are the Zera Shimshon's 4 opening questions. And now, as we mentioned, he's going to begin focusing on other psukim. The second paragraph, v'nakdim lefaresh pasuk acher, and we will start by explaining a different pasuk, another pasuk. And let's read this pasuk. It's also a pasuk in Tehillim. This one comes from Parak Samech Zayin pasuk Beis, and it says as follows. The Zera Shimshon only quotes the first few words of this pasuk. The whole pasuk reads, Elokim yechanenu vivarchenu, Hashem favor us and bless us. Yo'er panav itanu, his face will shine light upon us, or itanu, actually with us. Selah, and Selah usually means forever, like la'olam. Again, Elokim yechanenu vivarchenu, Hashem favor us and bless us. Yo'er panav itanu, his face, the face of Hashem, it means will shine with us, Selah, forever. So the Zera Shimshon says, Dimahu Selah. In this pasuk, what is the meaning of the word Selah at the end as the last word, as the final word in the pasuk? Deha, because behold, Yechanenu vivarchenu, show favor to us and bless us, Heim dafka ba'olam hazeh. These words only apply in this world, in olam hazeh. When we ask Hashem to show favor to us, or we ask Hashem to bless us, these words apply to the material world, the physical world that human beings live in, that we live in, olam hazeh. Olam haba, because if you're talking about the next world, the spiritual world, olam haba, lo shaychi elu halishonos. These languages of favor us, these terms of favor us and bless us, do not apply. Vesela mashma ad belisof, and the word sela implies forever, ad belisof, without any end, infinitely. So the Zera Shimshon introduces a new pasuk, as we said, a pasuk from earlier in Sefer Tehillim. And then he says on that pasuk, right off the bat, we should notice a problem, which is that the pasuk itself used terms of favor us, asking Hashem to favor us and bless us which are terms that apply to Olam Hazeh, only this world. And then at the end it says Sela, seemingly saying, do this forever, but that includes Olam Haba. That a term like Sela means not just this world, it means eternally for Olam Haba as well. So it's almost as if the Zera Shimshon is saying that there's an inconsistency here that needs to be explained. Ve'im nomar, and if we suggest lifso ka'inyan, to split up the matter, meaning to say that the pasuk should be viewed as if it has two different parts. The yechanenu vivarcheinu, because when it says Hashem favor us and bless us, hu ba'olam hazeh, that's referring to this world. Ve'od, and then the pasuk says, in addition, yo'er pano vitonu l'olam haba. In addition, Hashem will shine His countenance upon us in the next world. Maybe that's what the pasuk's referring to. So the Zera Shimshon says, if that's the approach that you want to suggest to answer this question, and you want to say simply, we're asking Hashem to favor us and bless us in this world, and to shine His countenance upon us in the next world, Sela, forever in the next world. He says, Gam zeh haloshon lo shaykh kol kach leolam haba dafka. This language of Hashem shining His countenance upon us is not really relevant when you're specifically talking about olam haba. Ve'od kroksiv, and we know this from another pasuk, what's written in another pasuk, and here the Zera Shimshon is going to introduce, again, as we mentioned, a third pasuk, and this will really sound familiar because this is from the Birchas Kohanim, the blessing, the priestly blessing that the Kohanim are charged to give, to bless the Jewish people with. So the Zera Shimshon says, Yo'er Hashem panav elecha. One of the psukim in the Birchas Kohanim says, Hashem will cause His countenance to shine to you. And then after those words it says, and He will favor you. Demashma, this implies hakol ba'olam hazeh, that the whole pasuk is referring to this world. Since vichuneka, Zera Shimshon has already told us, explained to us that the word vichunecha, to favor you, or the use of this word chen, to favor you, to favor us, is a word that only applies, is only a request that we make in reference to Olam Hazeh, to this world. And the pasuk talks about Hashem shining His countenance on you. And then after that, it says, Vichunechan, show favor to you. So the Zera Shimshon says, you see that this idea of Hashem shining His countenance is a reference and refers to things that happen in this world. And that's why it's followed with Vichunecha, which we know only applies in this world. So the Zera Shimshon is saying you can't really split up our pasuk and say the first part is Olam Hazeh and the second part is Olam Haba, because Hashem shining His countenance is also a reference to Olam Hazeh. Then he continues, Ve'od, and now since we brought up the pasuk in Birchas Kohanim, my shna dehacha, my shna, what's the difference? Dehacha ka'amar, that over here it says mitachila, from the beginning, Yechanenu ve'achar kach yo'er. First, the pasuk that we quoted from Tehillim Perek Samech Zayin, it says, favor us, and then it talks about Hashem shining His countenance. Ubepasuk shel Birchas Kohanim, but in the pasuk of Birchas Kohanim, hiktim yo'er. First, it says yo'er Hashem panav elecha, Hashem should shine His countenance upon you, and then it levichuneka, and then it says, and show you favor. How come the order is different in the two psukim, one in Tehillim Perek Samech Zayin and one from the Birchas Kohanim in the Torah? Why isn't there a consistency there? So let's pause for a moment. We have no answers yet. The Zera Shimshon has not even started to answer any of his questions. But just so we're all on the same page, back in the first paragraph, the Zera Shimshon introduced the pasuk from Tehillim Perek Pei Tes that talks about blowing the shofar, and he asked 4 questions. Then he said, before we approach those questions and try to answer them, he said, I'm going to introduce a different pasuk, and he introduced the pasuk from Tehillim Perek Samech Zayin. And in that pasuk where it talks about Hashem favoring us and blessing us, and it talks about Hashem shining His countenance, There he asked further questions, and he compared or contrasted that pasuk to a pasuk from Birchas Kohanim, and that allowed him to raise more questions. So we've got questions on the pasuk he started with, and now he's asked questions on the two psukim he brought in afterwards, and now he'll start to explain things and begin to answer some of the questions on the two new psukim before he ever circles back to the original pasuk. Here we go, bottom paragraph on the column. V'yesh lomar, and we can say, sheyadua, it is known, she'ikar kavanas hatzadikim b'ma'aseyim hatovim, the main intention that the true tzadikim have in their, when they do their maisim tovim, when they do their good actions, they fulfill the mitzvos, lehachzir hanitzotzos shel hakadusha, it is to bring back the sparks of holiness, shenaflu bechet hakodum, that fell at the time of the original chet, the original sin of Adam HaRishon, bein haklipos, between the shells. The word klipos, this whole paragraph, as you can see, begins to introduce Kabbalistic terms like the holy sparks and also the shells. And the shells, again, on the most simple level, is a reference to the forces of tumah, the forces of impurity in this world. Dehainu lehotzia misham. This means that the tzaddikim, when they do their mitzvos, they have kavanah to bring out the sparks of holiness from the forces of impurity, from the klipos, from the shells, v'litein lahem koach lahalosam l'mekorim ha'elyon, and to give to them strength to rise up to their ultimate lofty source. Omnum, however, be'asiyas ha-mitzvah ketikuna, even when a tzaddik does a mitzvah the absolutely correct way, bevadai shemotzi mosam misham, certainly that action will bring out the sparks of holiness. Aval litein lahem koach lachzor, but to give these sparks that have been enwrapped or have been trapped in the klipos and the impure forces of the world, to bring them back limakomam, to their original place. Ze efshar la'adam lasos. This it is impossible for a person to do, im lo b'siyua hakadosh baruch hu, without the assistance of Hashem. Ve'al ze omar hakasiv, and about this another pasuk in Tehillim states, Hashem yigmor ba'adi, Hashem complete it for me, or complete it with me. And the Zera Shimshon says that pasuk alludes to this idea that even a tzaddik, the greatest tzaddik, can only do a certain amount in terms of bringing out, doing a mitzvah, and having the appropriate Kabbalistic kavanah intentions to bring out these holy sparks that are trapped. But he is not able, without the assistance of Hashem coming along to complete the act, to bring those sparks back to their original starting place and their original holy, lofty starting place. Because they need to be cleaned. These sparks need to be cleaned, and to be polished. They need to be polished. Kodem shiur ru'uyim lalos lemakom hakadusha, before they can rise to their holy place. Shelo yiyu meluchlochos klal ve'ikar, in order that they will not be dirty, they will not be tarnished in any way. V'tzarech tziruf achar tziruf, and they need to be purified and purified again. V'libun achar libun, and they need to be cleaned and whitened again and again. V'zehu sod, and this is the hidden Kabbalistic meaning of the word v'nakeh, the Omor b'yud gimel midos, which is stated in the 13 attributes of Hashem. When we recite, as we do during Slichos, and of course as we will, God willing, on Rosh Hashanah, when we recite the Yud Gimel Midos, we say V'nakeh. Hashem will cleanse. So the Zera Shimshon says, what does it mean? Hashem will cleanse. It means that Hashem will clean the sparks and bring them back to their highest level. And this, again, the Zera Shimshon is teaching us, can only be done by Hashem. This can't be accomplished this can't be accomplished by a person himself alone without the special support without the special assistance from Hashem. So that's the first principle. Again, Kabbalistic ideas, which we can only translate the words on a very simple level, but we're starting to get somewhat of an idea of what the Zera Shimshon is saying, but not in any deep way. The Yadua she'ein Hashem sholem, the next paragraph, and it is known that the name of Hashem is not considered complete ad sheyuvruru kol hanitzotzin, until all of the sparks will be separated out. She'az bilo hamovis lanetzach. That, of course, is a pasuk from a pasuk we know that's said in the house of a mourner or at a funeral. This is pasuk in Yeshayahu says that death will be swallowed up forever. And this, the Zera Shimshon says, is an allusion to the idea that the sparks, all of the hidden holy sparks, will come out and be separated from their impure contamination. And when that happens, death will be swallowed up forever. Uvechol yom v'yom, and every day, uvechol mitzvah, and every mitzvah she'osim Yisrael that Klal Yisrael does, misbarim mixas mehem. Some of these sparks are separated out. V'ha'olam hazeh shehuzman mimshelas ha'umos nimshal lechoshech. This world, where the process of Jewish people Bnei Yisrael doing mitzvos and trying to elevate these holy sparks, this world is controlled under the domination of the Umos Ha'olam and Nimshal Lechoshech. Therefore, it is compared to the night. This world is referred to as Choshech, as nighttime. The Ha'olam Haba, and the next world, Shehuzman HaGeula, which is the time of true redemption, Nimshal Layom, it is compared to daytime, to the light of day. Lefi shehu yom shekulo ora, because olam haba, there is no nighttime. It is like an unending and an eternal day of daylight. The conducive besefer habahir uverikanti, and it is written in the sefer habahir, which is an ancient book of Kabbalah, and the Rikanti, which is a book of Kabbalah from the medieval times. In those two sefarim, it's written, Shekesh Yisrael osim ritzono shel makom, when Bnei Yisrael, when Klal Yisrael does the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, gormim habracha, they cause blessing to come to the world. Ukesha habracha mispashet, and when this blessing spreads in the world, az hanishamos misgalos ba'olam, then the souls that need to be redeemed are revealed in the world. V'hu tov lahatzalos hanefashos u'lekibutz hanidachim. And it's good, by doing the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, by Klal Yisrael doing that and revealing the neshamos and spreading bracha in the world. This is good. This is good for the saving of these souls and for the collection and bringing in of these nitzotzos, these sparks that have been spread throughout and contaminated in the world, spread throughout the world. And now that we understand these basic ideas, shapir kamarkosav, we can understand that it made sense for the pasuk to say, this is a reference now to the second pasuk that he quoted, the one from Tehillim Samech Zayin, not the one he started with, because it says, Elokim yechanenu vivarchenu, uses a lashon of Elokim. And we'll talk about the Zera Shimshon will tell us, he'll help us understand that language in a moment. Elokim, which we know is the Midas Hadin, Hashem should favor us and bless us. Az HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yair Panav Yitanu, then Hashem will shine his countenance with us. Zahainu Yitein Lanu Koach LaHachzir Hanitzotzos LeMakomam. What does it mean? It means that Hashem will give us the strength to return these sparks to their original place, which is not something we could do on our own. Shehu inyan hashayach la'olam haba, and this is an idea which can only be accomplished, which is connected, to olam haba, lahachish geula as hanitzotzos, to quicken, to hasten the redemption of these sparks. V'dayak lomar yo'ir panav, and the pasuk was careful to say he should shine his countenance. Mipnei shehu karav hayom shekulo ora, because by bringing in and collecting in these sparks and taking them away from their connection to the tumah of this world, to the klipos, this brings light to the world, and it brings us closer to the ultimate light, which is the geula and the olam haba. And when these sparks return to their place, yoshvim sham tamid, they will stay there, they will remain there forever, netzach, eternally, selah. And that's why the pasuk ends with the word selah. Al derech, along the lines of a pasuk in Eov, chayil bola v'yikiena, the pasuk says that a person can swallow wealth and throw it up or purge it out of its system. But that pasuk continues and said only Hashem can purge it out completely, meaning only with the help of Hashem, as the Zera Shimshon explained previously, only with the help of Hashem can we completely free the nitzotzos, the holy sparks, from their entrapment in the klipos and the impurities of impure forces of this world. And only with Hashem's help can they be returned to their original spot, and they will stay there, selah, forever. Just as we see that pasuk begins Elokim with the word Elokim, Shehu Lashon Din, which is the language of Hashem's Midas Hadin, his attribute of justice. V'afal pichein yechanenu, even though it's the Midas Hadin that's judging Bnei Yisrael, Hashem should still show chen to us. Dehainu yitein lanu chen, which means to give us favor. Kemoshe matzinu ben Noach, as we find regarding Noach, dichsiv, the pasuk writes, v'Noach motza chen, and Noach found favor. Noach found favor in the eyes of Hashem. The Amru b'Medrash, and in the Medrash Rabbah it says on that pasuk, Af Noach lo haya kedai. We're going to the top of the second column. Even Noach himself was not worthy to be saved from the flood completely or solely on his own merits. Noach too needed to find a special favor in Hashem's eyes in order to be saved from the flood, from the Mabul. And after Hashem gives us favor, Yitain lanu habracha, he will give us the blessing that will spread and begin to separate the nitzotzos, the holy sparks, kenizkar la'el, as it's been stated previously. So the Zera Shimshon explained, put some principles or put some ideas in place, Kabbalistic ideas in place, and then he went back and explained the pasuk from Tehillim Perek Samech Zayin. And at the end of the piece, when we recap, God willing, we'll specifically talk about how he understands that pasuk. But let's continue. Let's forge on ahead. However, the pasuk shel birchas kohanim. When we switch over now, when we switch our analysis over to the pasuk in Birchas Kohanim, Sham Ksiv Shem HaMeyuchad, there the word Elokim is not used, but rather the special, unique four-lettered name of Hashem, the Yud, the Hey, the Vav, and the Hey. Umayri Sherotza Lehetiv Lanu B'midas HaChesed. This represents Hashem wanting to do good for us through the Midas HaChesed, the attribute of kindness, Shehu Midaso Shel Kohen HaMevorech, which is the same attribute that a Kohen who recites the blessing must feel, and must recite the blessing with a feeling of Ava, with love for Bnei Yisrael. Ubischus Osa HaBrocha Shehayu Omrim Osa B'Shem HaMeforash, and in the merit of that blessing, meaning the Birchas Kohanim that was said, using the Shem HaMeforash, when they actually pronounce the four-letter name of Hashem in its correct pronunciation, something that we know that we do not do under any circumstances since the Chorban Beis HaMikdash, since the destruction of the temple. Mamela hayu misborech ha'olam. On its own accord, when they recited that bracha and they used that four-letter name of Hashem and pronounced it, blessing came to the world, umisalim harbe nitzotzos, and this caused many sparks to raise up, machmas bracha zu, because of this blessing. Shaharei Shom hayusah hashras hashchina, because then in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, there was a settling, there was a dwelling of the Shekhinah in this world. There was a place for the Shekhinah to dwell in this world. And when Hashem's four-letter name was pronounced in the Beis Hamikdash, where there was Hashras HaShekhinah, that in and of itself, and what the Zera Shimshon means when here is in and of itself, without any actions by people whatsoever, without people even doing mitzvos, the recitation of the Birchas Kohanim itself and the pronunciation, the articulation of the four-letter name of Hashem was able, along with the Hashras HaShekhinah, which was present in the Beis HaMikdash, that itself caused a blessing to come into the world and a separation of the sparks from their entrapment. Next paragraph. Umishum hachi maschil, and therefore, and that pasuk of Birchas Kohanim, it begins with the word yivarechecha. You should bless. The hainu shetavo habracha, which means the blessing can come even though people aren't doing anything. As the Zera Shimshon continues, va'afim lo yihiyu tzadikim gemurim, even if there aren't a pure, complete tzadikim at the time. Kemoshe siyem, as the pasuk concludes, v'yishmarecha. He will guard you, men hamazikim, and this means from impure forces in the world. She'im tomar shehayu tzadikim, because if you want to say that the Birchas Kohanim is referring to a period of time when everyone was tzadikim, ein sorach l'shmira pratis, then there would be no need to talk about Hashem protecting individual people. Shahari kala osek b'Torah, we know from Chazal, there's a statement from Chazal that anyone who is completely involved in Torah study, mazik and badilim mimenu, impure powers and forces separate from that person, and they have no power, no ability to harm that person. Va'odshem Messiahim, and also the bracha concludes, Yisa panav, he will lift his countenance. Ve'omru, and Chazal say in Masechta Brachos, Ve'lo esa panim, Hashem says, and would anyone argue that I should not lift my countenance to Klal Yisrael? Shediktiku ad kezayis, that they are careful to say Birchas Hamazon even if they only consume a kezayis of bread, and as opposed to what the Torah says, and the Torah commands, which is v'achalta v'savato v'rachta, you should eat and be fully satiated, and then you have a Torah mitzvah to bench. But Klal Yisrael took upon themselves to bench even if they only ate a kezayis and aren't fully satisfied. Dishmami no, we learn out from this statement in the Gemara, shehayu mokum lemidas hadin lachlok, that there was room for the midas hadin of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to disagree and to say, no, don't bless and protect Klal Yisrael. We see that there was room to do that because the people were not tzadikim gemurim. Ukesheyesh habracha v'iloi hanitzotzos. And once you have this blessing spreading in the world, and you have the holy sparks rising up, ba ha'aras panim, then the shining of Hashem's countenance comes. Elishabekan ksiv elecha. But here in the Birchas Kohanim, it says Hashem will shine his countenance to you, mipnei shenaseh shelo al yodenu, because it's being done by Hashem without any accompanying actions by people. Ubepasuk Elokim Yechanenu, but in the pasuk that we quoted from the second pasuk that we quoted, the one from Tehillim Perek Samech Zayin, it says Hashem show favor to us. Ksiv, and it's written Ya'er Panav Itanu. Hashem will shine his countenance with us. Dahainu al yedei tziruf ma'asenu, which means Hashem is shining his countenance along with us. It's a combination. Tziruf. It is a combination of the actions of people doing mitzvos, and tzaddikim especially doing mitzvos, along with the then Hashem joining in to complete the action, as the Zera Shimshon said previously, to complete our actions and bring the nitzotzos up, to shine them up so that they can return to their original spot. Last paragraph. Umeata, and now that we understand all of these things, novo lebeir hapasuk, we can go back and explain the original pasuk about Tekiah Shofar. Ashrei ha'am v'chule, happy or fortunate and praiseworthy are the people who know the blowing of the shofar. So the Zera Shimshon says, sheyadua, it is known, shekol sod hashofar hu lekabe tanidachim. Kabbalistically, the secret mission, so to speak, of the shofar, the secret capacity of the shofar is to gather in the sparks that are spread, these holy sparks that are spread around the world. As it's written, Bayom Hahu Yitakav Shofar Gadol, and on that day, a great shofar will blast, will be sounded. Ubo ha'ovdim, and the ones that are lost will come. V'chulei. So we see that the shofar brings in, just like it's a call for geula and the bringing in of the Jewish people from around the world. It's also on the Kabbalistic level, on that level, it's the bringing in of the nitzotzos. And this is what the pasuk means. Fortunate are the people and the unique individuals who know how to have the special kavanos, the special Kabbalistic intentions that are appropriate for this idea of the blowing of the shofar to be able to bring in the holy sparks. V'lachein omer yodei trua, and that's what it means by yodei trua. They know the sound of the shofar. Yodei sod hatrua. They know the secret of the blowing of the shofar, shegormim ha'alos hanitzotzos, which causes the bringing up, the rising up of the sparks. V'achar kach b'siyua ha'elyon, and then afterwards, once that's done, then with the assistance of the Hashem on high, holchim, they go. The sparks go, v'chozrim le'esanam, to their, and return to their place, harishon, their original place, v'ayinod l'kaman b'samach, and look more about this topic in the next piece, which would be Os Ches. So now let's just go back to the Zera Shimshon's 4 original questions, and hopefully we'll be able to see how he has answered those questions. So his first question is, what was the connection between the first part of the pasuk that talked about blowing the shofar and the second part of the pasuk that talked about going in the countenance of Hashem? So the Zera Shimshon has gone to great lengths to explain to us that this expression of the countenance of Hashem shining upon Bnei Yisrael is a reference to Hashem's assistance in bringing these holy sparks up to their original place. And so that's what the pasuk means. Fortunate are the people who know the secret of blowing the shofar, and they understand that the blowing of the shofar brings in these nitzotzos, brings in these sparks. It's effective to do that, and therefore, when Hashem's countenance will then shine upon us, the sparks will go to their original place, which leads us right into the second question. Why did the pasuk talk about Yahalechum going? So the Zera Shimshon says, because the sparks, once this happens, they go back to their original place. Number 3, question 3 was, why does it say Ba'or Panecha? Why does it say in the light of Hashem's countenance? And he explained that light represents Olam Haba, and the bringing in and gathering in of these nitzotzos is a necessary step to bring the Geula and move us towards the fully enlightened time of Olam Haba. And then for question number 4, the final question, why are Bnei Yisrael being praised as Yodei Trua? Don't the Ummos HaOlam know how to blow a shofar, know what that is to blow a ram's horn? And the answer is, of course, we're not talking about the physical act of blowing the ram's horn. Everyone might know how to do that, or at least knew how to do that in the past. We're talking about the secret knowledge, the arcane knowledge of Kabbalah, which teaches us that the blowing of the shofar with the right kavanos elevates the sparks, and Hashem helps bring those sparks back to their original place, which is a necessary step to bring the Geula, God willing, b'mehera b'yameinu. So Yasher Koach to everyone for participating, and with Rosh Hashanah coming, we wish everyone a good gebencht yar, a happy, healthy new year, and we look forward, God willing, to learning Zera Shimshon together again next week.